There's been a lot of talk about the upcoming Legion expansion in development by Tauri team going back few years ago even. People talking about it as if it was a war main killer, rivaling Ascension, Turtle WoW, or any huge popular private server that comes to mind both in terms of popularity and population and scripting. But is it really going to? Why do people have such high hopes for this project despite not seeing a new expansion by Tauri for about a decade?
Kinda like we're in the Matrix.
It's literally been around 10 years since the time Tauri came out with their last expansion, Mists of Pandaria, and the only expansion they are really known for internationally. It would probably still be considered a progressive server with progress through expansions, despite being stuck on one for so long, since it had Cataclysm and Wrath of Lich King before, maybe even the Burning Crusade, but I'm not sure, I don't go that far back. So it certainly has history and longevity with well over a decade of Tauri's existence. It used to be one of many national level private servers. Back in the day we used to have popular servers for each country. We had Freaks for Romania, a few German servers, TwinStar for Czechia and Slovakia, and Tauri for Hungary to name a few. It wasn't until before COVID when Tauri finally became more known internationally. I remember playing on Tauri in around 2017 when it was still the Tauri realm that was the most populated, and that was mostly Hungarian realm with majority of players from Hungary playing there. The Evermoon realm became popular much later, overtaking Tauri in terms of population. Tauri's history and their fate seems extremely similar to another project they already mentioned, TwinStar. Tauri focused on Mists of Pandaria while TwinStar focused on Cataclysm, and these were the best servers for their expansion for many years. Both stuck on the same expansion for about the same time. Until now. After a very long time of waiting, TwinStar finally progressed to another expansion in line, Mists of Pandaria, earlier this year. Much like what Tauri's going to do by progressing to Legion. So how did it go for TwinStar? How did they do after such a long time of waiting? And what does it tell us about the possible future of Tauri? It didn't go that well for TwinStar. There was interest by players, no doubt. Although they don't disclose their population numbers, safe to say there were well over 2,000 players near launch of Mists of Pandaria pre-patch and Mists of Pandaria proper, maybe even close to 3,000. But that really didn't last long, as players were met with countless stability issues, terrible lag, and many smaller but also bigger bugs on the server. So exactly 9 years after the release of Cataclysm, 9 years of waiting for perfection, because how would it be not perfect if we waited for so long, right? We were met with disappointment and frustration from TwinStar. Is this what's gonna happen to Tauri too? The server now reaches up to 1,000 players maximum, which makes it pretty much unplayable for most people outside of maybe an occasional dungeon, battleground, or a small raid if you have an active guild. All that only in the evening time. The server is now at its lowest point in terms of popularity, and now, after many years of waiting and teasing it, a new expansion should come to the server. What makes me believe that it will end up better than TwinStar? A few things. Legion is an extremely popular expansion, so is Mists of Pandaria, but for Mists of Pandaria we already had Tauri and Stormforge's Mistblade that launched only a year and a half ago, so you already had two really good options if you wanted to play the expansion on a private server. With Legion, we don't really have that. There are a few private servers, and especially now in 2023, a few more came out, but none of them compares to some of the best scripted private servers overall. People say Tauri is known for its great scripting, but so was TwinStar. TwinStar's Cataclysm was near flawless Cata experience, much like Tauri's Mists of Pandaria. But that is one single expansion developed over several years. Granted, the fresh Cata launches on TwinStar's Hades and Apollo realms were always controversial, with countless issues near the launch, while Stormforge's Mistblade launch, which is Tauri Team 2, was nearly flawless. There was near zero interest in testing Mists of Pandaria on TwinStar's PTR, while we saw literally hundreds of people actively testing Falsong's Legion PTR, which is another Legion project. Tauri is still in a close state, but seeing this trend, I think it's safe to assume that there is going to be a lot of interest in testing on a possible open beta testing realm on Tauri by many players. So although TwinStar and Tauri have a lot in common, Tauri has a lot more going for them, and it is unlikely to have a worse launch experience than TwinStar's Helios had. That being said, I think the expectations for a server that didn't come out with a new expansion in about 10 years are set too high. People are expecting perfection compared to that of a 5+ year-old realm, which is just not possible, especially if Tauri promises the old expansion's content scripted too, including Warlords of Draenor. I'm extremely hyped for Tauri's Legion. I'd definitely like to be there to see it, and I'd wish for nothing more than a server with longevity to take over the World of Warcraft private server scene and show everyone that fresh is not the way, but longevity, history, and progression is. Good luck, Tauri, hope you don't disappoint. Like the video, and see you in World of Warcraft.